Well, here we are guys, we made it. We reached the end of Silksong, at least most of us. And I think a big portion of you didn't understand most of what happened. As expected, the lore is quite hidden, and it also includes a lot of elements from Hollow Knight endings. And there are also like 5.5 endings in this game. So in this video I will explain the lore behind all the endings that this game has to offer. Before I start, I just want to say that we will go into the main lore that leads to the endings, and I will not go into deeper lore just yet. I will save that for future videos. I mean, a lot of you mainly just want to know the meaning behind the endings, so here we go. Hornet, being one of the last weavers and a creature that can produce silk, is captured by the Farlum cult. She manages to escape, but if she tries to leave the kingdom, they will eventually come and capture her again. So she decided to seek the source. The entire kingdom is controlled by silk threads that attach to everyone that is inside, driving them mad and attacking Hornet and others. Even corpses and machines are brought to life by the silk, and the one that controls all the silk in the kingdom is the grandmother of silk, who now is in a deep slumber in a cocoon at the top of the citadel, and she is desperate to wake up. And it seems that Hornet is the one that is able to wake her up. Throughout the game, Hornet fights Lace. Lace is the daughter of the Silk Mother, but not naturally. The Silk Mother just shoves her silk into an empty shell and thus giving Lace life. She is mainly made of silk. It's not technically a real life. The grandmother of silk is a higher being and also a pale being, godlike creatures with incredible powers. Hornet eventually makes her way to the citadel and the cradle and challenges her, and she finally wakes up at her call. But there is a problem. Hornet cannot actually kill the grandmother of silk. She has to use her bind ability and take all of that silk from her, otherwise she will just come back. So Hornet has to become the new monarch, and the weaver portion of her kinda wants that to dominate and become a god. And this leads to the first ending of the game. After Hornet manages to defeat her, she absorbs all of her silk. Her mask changes to weaver masks, and her crest and silk spool becomes gigantic, indicating her new immense power. Because Hornet is a weaver, she can produce silk from her shell, so now she can produce a ton more silk than the grandmother of silk. The silk threads spread even more in the kingdom, and the entire capital is covered in a giant cocoon, from where Hornet seems to go to some metamorphosis, growing 2 new pair of arms. Hornet seems to become a full weaver now, judging by the weaver mask she gets when she absorbs the silk. Normally it resembles her face, but it seems that now they look like her new form. We know from other dialogues that Hornet becoming the new god will not change anything. The citizens will still be controlled by the silk and the kingdom will still be cursed. But there is actually a solution for this. In order to make the kingdom finally free and also keep Hornet normal, because in that form she will definitely start to get mad because of that enormous power. If you choose to do that instead of the first ending, you'll get the half ending, as I like to call it, because after this ending you will reach Act 3. For that you'll have to start the Silk and Soul quest from the Caretaker. The Caretaker says there is only one way to get rid of the Silk Mother without Hornet needing to bind her. Like I said, the Weaver part of her wants that power, but mainly she wants to set this kingdom free, so Hornet agrees to collaborate with the Caretaker. They will have to create a tool to trap her. For that they will need 3 items that contain a lot of soul power in them, and also an old tool created by the Weavers in their tries to usurp this god. This tool has the power to focus and create a portal using the souls from the items. The Caretaker sets up the trap on the platform that the fight takes place, and once the Silk Mother is weakened enough, Hornet activates the weapon, but instead of a normal trap, a portal to the depths of the void below Farlum is open. Because plot twist, these 3 NPCs that you get the soul items from are actually snail shamans in disguise. The snail shamans are experts in controlling and manipulating souls, creating powerful spells, and they also have ties and a fixation to the void. They seem to be able to control it to some extent, but at a very low scale compared to the others like the Pale King or the Ancient Kingdom that created the Abyss structures. In order to ensure they will fully get rid of the Grandmother of Silk, they bound that trap to the void. The void is the opposing force to the Pale Beings and seeks to consume everything it touches. When the void portal opens, the void tendril starts to drag the Silk Mother down, but she wants to drag Hornet with her. In that moment, Lace comes and cuts cuts one of her mother arms and frees Hornet from her grip, but both of them are dragged into the portal in that process. The cradle got destroyed and Hornet fell down from the impact. The reason why Lace did this was because she didn't feel her mother's love. She hated the life that she granted her because it is not a real life, as she said. She is very aware of her nature, and her mother was obsessed with Hornet, and she was kinda jealous. Helping Hornet and getting her mother dragged into the void was an act of rebellion. She wanted to deny her mother that kind of power, but in reality her mother really cared and loved her. So much so that after she arrived in the depths of the Void Lake from the abyss, with her remaining powers and silk, she created a giant cocoon around her to slow the void from entering and corrupting them. As the void consumed the cocoon, she just created even more layers of silk around the cocoon using the last remaining of her soul. This process shortens her life, so eventually the void would fully enter and consume her and Lace. In this fight against the void, her threat spread from the cocoon below in the entire kingdom, and because the silk passed through the Void Lake above, all the silk got corrupted by the void, and now the residents are not only controlled by the silk, but they also get corrupted by the void. The screams you hear throughout the game is from the Silk Mother fighting the void. If things go like that for too long, the void and the Silk Mother will eventually destroy the entire kingdom and whoever lives there, all just to protect her child from the void. Now Hornet has to go down there and take Lace back, so her mother will stop spreading her silk and to also stop the void from corrupting everything. But when Hornet reached that location in the abyss, there was a small problem. Unlike the knight who was made of void, she cannot swim in the Void Lake because she will just get corrupted and killed. She is not made of void because she doesn't really have any void in her to protect her from it. So in order to pass through the lake, she needs the Everbloom, a pale flower used by the pale beings to repel the void to some extent and to be protected from it. This flower is not from this kingdom, so Hornet has to get it from a deep memory from her past, where she saw the White Lady holding one. When she manages to get it, she is able to pass through the Void Lake thanks to the powers of the flower. Once she enters in the cocoon, she can see the grandmother of Silk in a very weak state, and Lace, who despite her mother's efforts still got corrupted by the void. That's why she screams in that fight. She is desperate here. But Hornet can still save Lace. Throughout the fight, the mother starts to lose her remaining strength, so even more void starts to slip in. Once Hornet manages to cleanse Lace of all that void by beating her ass, she takes Lace and asks the Silk Mother to give all of her remaining silk to Hornet, so they can both escape. The mother does that, and with all of that silk, Hornet dashes upwards to escape, and the mother is completely gone after that. That was her last strength. The last problem is that the flower could withstand so much void, and it eventually got consumed and destroyed. The void immediately goes to take both of them, but they were saved by the knight and all the vessels from Hallownest. All of them travel between these two voids to save their sister, and also Lace, and they bring them up to the surface. The kingdom now is finally free from the silk and also from the void. The reason why Lace laughs at the end is because what a crazy thing Hornet just did. She just expressed her disbelief of what just happened right now. To give just two examples, is like Gatsu who laughed after he saw how weak he is compared to Griffith, or how Eren laughs when he experiences immense stress. This ending seems to contradict an old statement that Team Cherry posted in an old Reddit MA. There they said that all endings are canon and they will do their best to account for each one in future stories. This led a lot of people believing that Silksong is a prequel, which is definitely not. They even said long ago it's a sequel. It looks now that Team Cherry dropped that idea, probably because it complicated things too much. The only option would have been to never mention any past events, but then we will never have this beautiful cutscene. So now only two Hollow Knight endings are canon. The first one is the Dream No More, where the knight took this void tentacle form and they and all the other siblings took down the Radiance, and she was absorbed by the void. But we also see glimpses of the Lord of Shades. This creature appears in the endings where the Radiance is killed by this giant void creature made by combining all the vessels together and a big portion of void. So it makes sense to see something like that with all the vessels together in a place like this full of void. It is almost the exact setup when we first saw the Lord of Shades. But because the Lord of Shades and the vessels are still in Abyss, it means only the flower version of this ending is canon. There are two variants of this ending in Hollow Knight. One has the Lord of Shades entering in Hallownest through the body of the Godseeker, and the other one has the Lord of Shades sealed and stopped by the delicate flower, remaining in the void, just like we see here in Silksong. When Hornet said she remembers how the flower can can repel the void, I thought she was referring to this scene, but apparently she saw it with the white lady, so never mind. People believe that the Lord of Shades ending is the true canon one over the Dream No More, because you cannot see the Hollow Knight here. At the end of that ending they were freed and still alive, but I guess the Hollow Knight can just be in the background with the other vessels, and we just don't see them. But if that's really the canon one, that would also mean that the vessels can separate back from the Lord of Shades form to their regular forms. From what we know so far, the vessels only achieved that form thanks to the Godseeker's godly focus, or maybe they can actually just do it again if they really wanted to, I don't know. Anyways, there are still 2 more endings to talk about. The next one involves an NPC known as Greyruth. She's a witch that worships a Lovecraftian deity, or at least a very powerful creature, maybe like the ones we see in the memories, but there is not a lot of information about it, so prepare for a lot of speculation. This creature seems to be now gone, and there are only 2 areas that feature these roots, meaning even their influence is also almost gone, if it ever was. The witch talks about a certain birth, possibly meaning this is the first time this creature comes to life, but the quest that involves this creature is called the Rite of Rebirth, indicating this is the second coming of this creature, so I mainly go with that as a rebirth. I mean, these roots must have come from somewhere. Maybe this and the witch are the last remnants of their influence. Anyways, the witch awaits the moment of rebirth of this twisted creature. After Hornet wakes her from a long slumber, she started to prepare for the ritual. She kidnaps bugs and traps them in roots so the child could absorb them and grow. Later in the game, Hornet can find this nightmarish child far away in the Bilewater area, surrounded by roots. This is probably the place where that creature died and laid their egg for a new body. Once Hornet gives the twisted bud to the witch, she also captures her, because she is the perfect host for the twisted bud to grow and be born. So now Hornet is infected with this creature and the roots, and the witch also looks like she gave her life essence to the child alongside the other bugs that Hornet is surrounded when she was captured. All of them were used to feed the child. The child absorbed all of their essence. The child right now has more power than Hornet, so she cannot get rid of it herself. So she asked the help of a shitty doctor that was kicked out by the others from the capital, probably because of her unorthodox ways, or maybe because she uses infected tools from some guys in this area that is known to have infections and dead bodies. Even she seems to have a lot of dead bodies under her workplace. So you can guess how professional she is. She wants to cure an unheard infection to show the others how great she is. So Hornet is the perfect test subject, but she was not even able to cure Hornet from this parasite. She very painfully just weakened the infection to the point that Hornet was able to take control of it. So she's still infected and has that thing inside her. She now is able to use these roots to leech life from the others, just like how the child and the witch could do. But instead, if you decide to not cure it and defeat the Silk Mother while still infected, when both the Mother and Hornet are weakened from the fight, the Twisted Bud took that opportunity and spread their roots from Hornet's shell and also infected the Silk Mother, both of them becoming the host for this creature's rebirth. The entire area alongside Hornet and the Silk Mother are now turned and covered in roots, and later the creature hatches from them. You can only imagine what kind of Lovecraft horror can be born from the powers of 2 pale godlike creatures and a ton of silk. I mean, the Silk Mother was so powerful to resist the void for quite some time, so I don't even want to think about it. This seems the worst ending in the game. The last ending is more of a final cutscene than an actual ending, and it involves our long weird buddy Mr. Mushroom. Mr. Mushroom is a guy that visits kingdoms before they fall. He was also present in Hallownest. Hornet can find him throughout Farlum. He had come to see this kingdom mainly because of Hornet's actions that changed it. At the final location, he gives some inspirational speech for Hornet, saying that she can save this kingdom, and just like in the classic style, he launches like a rocket into the air and leaves. So this final cutscene that you get after an ending just shows him traveling to the next kingdom with that to be continued line. I will not put that much thought into it. Don't hope for Hollow Knight 3, at least for a very long time. There's also a secret ending. People had found this ending through data mining the game and extracting this cutscene from the game files. Some people said they actually got this ending and recorded it, which is funny because as of right now no one knows how to get it. There is not even a single achievement tied to it. People speculate it is found in Steel Soul mode, but it is not. It looks like an ending that was either cut from the game or they will use it for future DLCs and Team Cherry just forgot to remove it or something. So I'll probably miss some context from this this one, but for the sake of completion, let's break this down as well. In this ending, the Silk Mother seems to achieve her plan and manages to use Hornet as a vessel and possess her body. I think that's the case because the silk hair, the pose and the scream all belongs to the grandmother of Silk. But her new body looks similar to Hornet, so I guess that's what happened here. She took control of Hornet's body. Now with Hornet Weaver abilities to naturally produce silk from her shell, her powers become even greater. Normally her strings could only reach the edge of the kingdom. Places like Mos Grotto is still affected by it, but that's on a very small scale and the strings are weaker here. She cannot reach with her strings the Snail Shaman layer or also the Weaver room at the far right, because the Weaver said this is a place where her power cannot reach. But now with her new body, her reach is far greater than it was before, so much so that her threats can even now reach the wastelands near Farlum and take control over the bugs that comes to the kingdom and even the dead ones around there. So the curse and control over the citizens is even worse now. Things are kinda like before, but even worse. So this looks to be as bad, if not even worse, as the ending where Hornet becomes the new monarch. And with that, we reach the ending of this video. I hope you enjoyed this explanation and learned more about the world of Farlum and how your action can actually change the fate of these kingdoms and the lives of every bug that lives here. If you enjoyed this lore video and you are hungry for more, be sure to subscribe to this channel because there are more videos that are coming up soon, where I'll talk about every aspect of this game and story. Silksong has quite a lot of lore to offer. I also saw a lot of people having some problems and complaints about Silksong. I personally just have one complaint about the entire game, and that is that I'm not a fan of Hornet's new design. She aged very badly between the games and she really needs to lose some weight.